trainers, it's time for another VGC Professor Series episode. We've covered how turn order is dictated, but how about how the end of a turn gets handled? End of turn resolution is a fancy way of talking about what happens once all the Pokemon on the field have moved for their turn, and generally refers to status effects and how field effects operate. For this episode, it's important that I make the disclaimer that end of turn resolution has been figured out for Generation 7 by users DeWobblefett and Snorlax Monster, but there hasn't been full testing done for Generation 8, so we can only extrapolate. There's a lot of different status and field effects, so we aren't going to list them all, but it boils down to the following order going from first to last for Generation 7. The first is weather subsiding, followed by sandstorm or hail damage, and then Future Sight and Doom Desire attacks in the order which they were originally used. Then we get into our first block, Block A. Block A consists of Sea of Fire and G-Max chip damage in the order which they were originally used, followed by Grassy Terrain health recovery, abilities that self-cure status conditions, and held item healing such as Leftovers or Black Sludge. Outside of Block A, we have Leech Seed damage, Toxic or Toxic Poison, Burn damage, move effects such as Taunt or Encore Fading, Yawn, Perish Count, and Roost Fading. Then we enter into our next block, Block B, which includes field effects dissipating in the order of Reflect, Light Screen, Safeguard, Mist, Tailwind, Pledge Rainbow, Pledge Sea of Fire, Pledge Swamp, and then Aurora Veil, followed by G-Max chip moves that wear off here as well. And outside of Block B, we have Trick Room Ending, Gravity Ending, and Magic Room Ending, and then we have Block C, which includes Uproar, abilities that boost on the end of turn such as Moody Boost and Slow Start, self-inflicted status conditions from held items like Flame Orb and Harvest. And last but not least, on this list, we have Pokemon form modifying abilities such as Zen Mode, Power Construct, and Hunger Switch. This list of what we will refer to as checks resolves itself for the most part based on a Pokemon's speed. For example, Sandstorm damage will chip each of the Pokemon in order from the fastest Pokemon on the field, followed by the next fastest, and so forth. If any Pokemon share the same speed stat, then they will be broken by an RNG speed tie for who actually gets damaged first. However, speed modifiers such as Paralysis and Trick Room do in fact change the order of how Pokemon get affected, so it's important to keep that in mind. Moving down the list, we get into blocks which affect the order of Pokemon differently than just the speed of a Pokemon alone. Pokemon will enter Block A and Block C based on their speed stat and speed modifier. Each Pokemon will resolve each of the checks in a block before the next Pokemon with the next highest speed stat enters the block and resolves those checks as well. For Block B, the field effects will resolve themselves based on the host of a Pokemon battle, or the trainer whose card appears on the left-hand side at the start of the battle. The host Pokemon will resolve their field effects before non-host Pokemon field effects are resolved. If a speed modifier gets changed, such as Tailwind expiring or Paralysis curing, then the speed and potentially the order of resolution will be adjusted before the next check happens. This means that the order of Pokemon entering into Block C could be adjusted depending on if any speed modifiers in play shifted the original order of how the end of turn would be resolved. In VGC, the specific order of damage and healing occurring due to items, status conditions, as well as field effects is really important. Understanding how chip damage functions is a critical part of VGC, and it could mean the difference between a Pokemon fainting or surviving through the end of the turn. Keeping the speed of your Pokemon and any speed modifiers in mind for the end of the resolution phase is really crucial when making decisions. We will cover speed, speed modifiers, and dynamic speed in a future episode. Weather will subside at the end of the turn before it deals damage if there was one turn left on its timer before the turn began. Understanding this interaction is crucial if you're relying on Sand to take a knockout by dealing the last bit of damage to a low HP Pokemon with the weather. Weather damage, if still active, will happen before Grassy Terrain and healing from Leftovers and Black Sludge. If the Pokemon is low enough on HP and in range of getting knocked out, a Pokemon could get knocked out by chip damage from weather before an item or Grassy Terrain heals them back up. Grassy terrain and healing from items will occur before status condition damage occurs, so a Pokemon is likely safe from being knocked out by their status condition if they have some form of recovery before they take the chip damage when they were at low HP. Let's take a look at the following clip and tie it all together. Grassy terrain is active on the field, but there's a burned Metagross and it's hailing. Hail damage will occur first, followed by the grassy terrain healing, and finally Metagross will be dealt burn damage. There's still 4 turns of hail left in this example, but if it was set to expire on that turn, it would have dissipated before dealing the damage. The order is weather damage, healing, then status condition damage. However, it's important to recognize how certain turns will end with other certain scenarios. Other examples where knowing end of turn resolution is beneficial are versus teams with Yawn and Perish Trap teams. Pokemon are immune to Yawn if they are sitting on electric terrain. However, because flying types and levitating Pokemon do not touch the ground, they will not experience the benefits of electric terrain. The only exception to this would be if Roost is used on the turn where the Pokemon afflicted is supposed to be put to sleep. Because of Roost grounding the Pokemon gains the benefits of electric terrain. Because Yawn puts a Pokemon to sleep before the Pokemon resumes levitating or gaining its flying typing back, you can take advantage of Roost to stop the Yawn while electric terrain is active. Thinking about a Pokemon's speed is important for the end of the turn, as seen in this next example. Perish Song is a move in the game that puts a faint timer on every Pokemon that hears the song. The Perish Song counter will count down for 4 turns, starting from when the move is used. When the Perish counter hits 0 at the end of the turn, the Pokemon who heard the song and have not swapped out will faint. It is important to note that Perish timers conclude at the end of the turn, meaning Pokemon will faint after they've moved for the turn and prior to the Perish count hitting 0. Perish Song teams rely on the opposing team experiencing the Perish effect first, which is why many Perish teams will have slower Pokemon, because the faster Pokemon will faint first. However, this means that there is also a way to reverse the order of the Perish Song effect by setting Trick Room before the final turn, which will result in the slower Pokemon fainting first. While this isn't an all-inclusive list and more testing has to be done, this is still a great start in determining how end-of-turn resolution functions. Please check out the link in the video description below to see the full list. That's all for this week's episode. Hope you learned something about how end-of-turns operate in a VGC double battle, and stay tuned for more VGC Professor Series episodes.